Welcome, Khushboo, to the Beyond Money Summit. This is a special segment where we'll be asking you some questions on your career, your journey with your finances, and financial empowerment in general. And we're so grateful to have you here because you are definitely contributing to women taking control of their finances and building wealth. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me and giving me the chance to share my journey and my experiences in this space with other women and the audience.
Awesome. So you are the CEO and founder of Buy Properly. I'm going to be honest, I have never heard of fractional real estate investment until I had to interview you. So I'm going to give you the honors. What is Buy Properly about, and what is fractional real estate, and why should we get involved?
Sure. So Buy Properly is a platform for investing in real estate, except real estate is expensive. A one-bedroom condo in Toronto can cost as much as $500,000. That's a huge amount of down payment you're talking about, which average Canadians cannot afford. So what we've done is you can invest in real estate through the platform in a fractional manner. So the way you do it is you choose a property you want to invest in. It's all listed on our platform. And you can choose how much you want to invest. And our minimum is $2,500. And that means that you can buy a share of a house, just like you buy shares of a company. You don't own the whole of Amazon or Apple or Google, but you can own shares of the company. Similarly, you're buying shares of a house. And so whatever rental income the house generates, you get that as rental distribution every quarter. And when the house sells, you get a share of the exit price, or you get the capital appreciation gains through that. So it allows everyday Canadians to be able to invest in real estate. That's what we do.
So I can be a homeowner without being a homeowner?
Exactly.
Is that what you're trying to say right now?
So we have like 3 objectives with this platform. 1, we want to make it accessible to everyone. Because all the large financial institutions, all the wealthy HNIs, they all know that real estate is a mechanism for growing your wealth. The problem is average people cannot access it. So that knowledge is of no use if you cannot enter that industry or enter that space. And what we are saying is, okay, everyone should be investing in real estate, and this is how. So making it accessible is one. The second big problem with real estate is, say you put the money together with friends, family, and you buy the house. Then what? You can't just leave and exit and sell and get out. It's not easy to exit it. Then you are with it, you're managing the operations, the tenant, all of the things that come with real estate. We as a platform are taking that out as well. Because nobody is running Amazon. They're not managing the operations. They're just buying the share. Similarly, you're just buying the share of the house. We take care of all of the operations. And then the third thing is just the process. So the process of buying real estate, which is still pretty archaic industry, is complicated and stressful and intimidating to a lot of people. So a lot of people end up sitting on the sidelines. And our objective is to make it almost as close to an Amazon experience or a Netflix experience as possible. So with us, for example, you go online, browse, click invest, put your information and check out, and that's it. It's done. It takes less than 7 minutes to do the whole thing the first time and less than 60 seconds the next time you're in.
How did you get to the point where you were like, I'm going to start this company?
Yeah, I think the best companies are started with the founders' frustrations. So when I moved to Toronto, and I used to live in UK before this, first reaction was, oh, everything is cheap here, because UK was even more expensive. London was crazier than this. Right. But then over time, I started realizing, in comparison to what I was earning, real estate was way more expensive. So just for context, if you compare it to other expensive real estate places like New York or San Francisco, the average house price in New York is 5 times the average income. The average house price in San Francisco is 8 times the average income. That same number is 12 times in Toronto and 14 times in Vancouver.
Wow.
So the average house price is 12 times the average income. So it is much less accessible. And then when I set about buying a house for myself after saving, like me and my husband put together everything, sold everything, kind of like, okay, we have to get this thing. The process was scary. I never knew what my agents were telling me. I couldn't trust the data. It was just very, very stressful. And that made me think, wait, I'm an average Canadian. I earn, I save like regular people. If I'm struggling, I'm sure there are others in this boat. And then so I started looking for options. Like, okay, there has to be a better way of doing this than what I am doing. There's no way everybody is going through this much stress to buy a house, only to realize that actually there are no options out there. Like people are just fretting and grumbling and letting it go.
Yes.
Like, okay, this isn't something I can do, so I will live with that. And so that made me research, say, okay, what are the options? What are the parallels in other industries? What's happened in fintech? So you have companies like Robinhood and Wealthsimple that have done the same thing for the fintech industry to say, how do you make investing easier for people?
Right.
And so kind of researching and talking to people, I was like, okay, there's nobody doing this. It's highly regulated, and I used to work at Amazon and I had launched 2 business lines for them. So I was very comfortable with dealing with regulations and compliance and building tech around it such that you are compliant and still user-friendly. And so I was like, if somebody has to do it, if I am suffering and nobody else is doing, I might as well do it.
Right.
So I said, okay, this is it. I'm doing it. And I started researching it.
Listen, that's why the segment is called How I'm Doing It, and you are literally doing it. So I want to know, in this open and transparent space, what your relationship with money looks like, and how has that influenced how you do business?
Sure. As I feel like I have an MBA in finance, I majored in finance, I interned at an investment bank, and yet I was not an avid investor. I mean, I'm not even embarrassed to admit that I was not good at investing. In spite of the fact that I was making investment banking M&A decisions, I wasn't investing actively myself.
Okay.
And so I think it took me some time to come around because I was afraid I'll make bad decisions. I will lose my money. Plus, as a typical millennial, I graduated with a huge student debt. So I did my MBA in the US at Wharton School, and I graduated with $200,000 of US dollar debt. Yes.
200,000 US dollars.
Student debt. So that meant that I was so cautious about my money. I wouldn't buy a jacket, I wouldn't buy a purse, and I wouldn't invest because I would do nothing but save up for my debt.
Right.
Which clouded my thinking to say it's important to grow my wealth just as important it is to save. And so that was, I think, over time that I realized that I need to start investing, even if it's a small amount, even if it is $1,000, whatever my comfort number is, but I have to do it regularly and overcome the fear that it's okay to invest and I'm not going to lose that money.
Yes.
It's good to save, but it's even better to invest because savings will not make you rich.
Right.
Investing can make you better off as far as wealth is concerned.
Amazing. And where or who taught you about finances? Is it something you picked up? Were you reading? Is it people in your life? What is your best method of learning about finances?
So there are multiple ways. In spite of my MBA in finance, clearly it wasn't enough to make me actually do stuff. I feel like community is very handy. People where you can actually let down your guard and say, you know what, I'm really curious about crypto, but I actually am very scared that I might lose all my money in it. So I would want to play, how much should I be investing? What is a good number? And do you have a preference? Or I would want to do stock market, but should I be picking my stocks or should I be doing ETFs or index bonds? People can let down the guard and say, this is my finances. This is the things that I have in front of me in the next 2 years. Maybe I'm planning to travel the world and take a break, not in COVID, but yes, outside of COVID, that could be a goal.
Right.
Maybe I'm planning to take a life break, like have a kid or something, and so there's going to be a career break. But in the context of all of this, how should I be planning my finances? And it's important to have a community. It's also important to just read up magazines, websites like yourself, where professionals are providing advice, as well as people who have had different experiences in the industry are bringing in their viewpoints. So that's another big source, and actually that's way more motivating than the MBA in finance, I would say.
You mentioned before you are an entrepreneur, so we want to know, because at Wealth Nouveau, it's really important not only to invest in money, to invest in real estate, crypto, we also talk about investing in ourselves, because we're the people who are going to be taking on a lot of these work and investments. So how do you invest in yourself?
Sure. So I'll divide that into two parts. One is the chilling part, and one is the growth part.
Okay.
On the growth side, I want to ensure that I'm always learning. It is super, super important, because whatever I know today is going to be outdated very soon.
Right.
And there's no way I can be an expert in everything. So it's important that I constantly adding to whatever I know. And that includes that I'm experiencing new stuff, as well as not just learning in terms of like concepts or theory or just like education in terms of like school kind of education,
Right.
but overall as a person. So one of my goals is every year I try at least one new thing.
Okay.
Which I've never done in my life before.
Okay.
It could be an experience, and reading a book doesn't count, or traveling to a new city doesn't count.
Okay.
Those are too simple to get away with. So you have to come up with a new experience every year that you've never done before. The second is, which I'm learning only now, I haven't in most of my life done this, but just learning to just chill sometimes and say,
Right.
let it go. In general, and everybody knows this by Pareto principle, that 80% of the things are going to be, 80% of the impact in your life is going to be done by 20% of the things.
Right.
You can never get everything perfect. So now you have to realize that if you're juggling 10 balls, which ones you will drop? As long as you know, because you cannot keep everything going and stay sane.
Right.
So know beforehand, what is it that you would drop? As long as you know that it is okay to drop this one and you drop it, you'll be fine. So for me, for example, it was like, I can't cook. If I have to drop something, cooking is something that doesn't excite me, doesn't make me happy.
Right.
So I will drop cooking. So I'll just order. I'll order out. I'll find a cook. I will do whatever, but not cook. Done. And I'm not guilty about the fact that I'm not cooking at all.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's really important that, especially as women, that we recognize that we cannot do it all, especially for the entrepreneurs and business owners. What advice would you give them based off of your own journey?
So as a woman entrepreneur, obviously I'm viewed maybe slightly differently. Doesn't help them. I'm a new immigrant, new to Canada, a woman and a person of color, so kind of checking off all of the standard stereotypes.
Yeah.
But I think one of the important things is to go out there and figure out people like yourself. So there are role models for everyone. And if you are looking at somebody like yourself, they've probably gone through similar challenges and similar paths.
Right.
And I'm sure they'll be happy to share their learnings. So when I meet, for example, other young women entrepreneurs, I can tell them exactly what they will face when they go for fundraising, because I have been through that journey. But when I reach out to, say, other very successful but men entrepreneurs, I don't necessarily get this, the advice that I get, it doesn't necessarily always apply to me.
Right.
Or the challenges they face aren't exactly the same that I am facing. And so that's important to understand that, okay, who's the closest prototype of me, and then learn from them. That's important. The second thing as an entrepreneur is you're constantly telling your story. You have to tell your story, like, why am I doing this? Why is this important? Why what I'm doing is a lot of hard work. Often, and it's very true for women even more so, is that the tendency is you put your head down and you work hard and things will be okay. No, the real world doesn't work like that.
Right.
Maybe, but there's a likelihood that it may not be even when you worked hard. So it's important to go out and tell your story.
I love that. That's well-rounded. Seek help from those that look like you or lived similar lived experiences. Definitely constantly learn. That's important too, and I agree with that. And that's why we're here today at the Beyond Money Summit. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I appreciate and value all of the lovely information you just shared with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here, and Wealth Nouveau is doing a great job in this space. And I hope you guys are able to reach even more audience and more people know about you, because it is so important for them to become part of this community.
Thank you.